We're pleased to have you join our community. This is Enterprise Friday on Enterprise Television. I am Henry Igwebike. Just like we do every day, this is newspaper reviews, and after that will be our main conversation for today, where we'll get everything all sorted out for you. Please do well to visit our website at www.enterprisetvnews.com. Like, comment, and follow us on all our social media platforms at Enterprise TV7. With me today in the studios to do justice is no other but someone I have so much respect for, Akin Fatunke, a public affairs commentator. Good morning to you.
Bright morning to you. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, thank you so very much for giving us your time every time we call upon you. So today, let's start off our newspaper headlines. But before we get straight into the newspaper dailies, I'd love us to talk about what I would call a twist of event. Some couple of weeks back, we talked about how that the minister of the minister, Mrs. Ohenaya, was about town, talking about her dislike for the marriage that was about to, kick off in Nassau State. And right now we're having a twist of event. We do not know what influenced that twist of event, but the issue now is she is backing down. In fact, she's done that so much that she's even empowering the said girls with POS machines in their husbands' homes, and that is so very unlikely. But I would love to ask you, what do you think of all of this? We know the Child's Right Act, which I want to believe every educated, informed person should abide with, and she was what she was gunning for. Right now, she is beginning to back. Do you think this is an influence from somewhere?
I just think that that's the reality of our moment. I also think that we are not one. We don't see things with the same eye prism. We are culturally different, and our gestats, our worldview about issues is materially different. Mrs. Uju Kennedy came from a perspective of a cultural background as regards what should happen, how it should happen, and certain things that should just not be in. And she was now confronting a Speaker of a House in Niger State, equally as educated and exposed as herself, but who has his cultural background in the feudalistic system. Peter, I tell you, this movie is playing itself out one time too many. We will never, forever, be able to see things in the same direction. Now, when you say that she's changed her mind and culture, again, she changed. I personally believed in her cause. I believed that going to court, again, you can look at it and say the rights of those girls. I got to understand later, because I thought they were babies. I thought they were infants. I came to learn later that some of them are 28, and so, they are above the 18-year maximum, and that should have been a pushback from their end. But you see that, from that kind of background, you are married off, you are provided, materials when you die and all that, and in between, the charm, CHAMS, the charm, and the big hole in our developmental index about our education keeps on widening. And there you have situations where the objective is to go and multiply and multiply and multiply, even if you will not have the means to cater for them, so that at the point of counting, you now then say you have so much, so many number of people, and then from where Uju Kennedy comes from, which incidentally I also share, will now continue to be on the downward trend. Again, I think it's a shame. I also think that I hope we are not going to throw the baby away with the bathwater. The fulcrum of the importance of what Mrs. Uju Kennedy is going out for cannot be lost on all of us. And when we get to the river, we'll take a decision whether we are going to cross or we're going to drown.
Very, very
right
true.
now, we have taken a course of wanting to drown. You heard what the speaker said. Rather, and you heard what Akitola said, Murik, rather that these girls be married off to men than to go and be doing sodomy or be doing, LGBT. Is that,
LGBTQ.
Again, ignoratio elenchi. For our listeners, that is trying to bring a logical fallacy into trying to justify what you want to get at. Ignoratio elenchi. Try to make it logically right when you are actually referring to something that is supposed to be opposite. So there we are. Solution? Solution? Let's understand our differences. Let's agree that there are differences with us. Let's get back to what Ahmadu Bello said. Let's agree, disagree, agree. Do it your own way, do it your own path. Be responsible for every other thing without necessarily making a recourse to me. Nigeria is not one, and Nigeria cannot be one under the extant things that support us by way of constitution, unfortunately.
True. Yes. And just to let you know, it's actually a Niger state, not Nasarawa, as I earlier said. Now, let's move on to the newspaper proper. And it's coming from the first daily we have is the Guardian newspaper. And the big story here says 1 year of renewed hope. Tinubu's costly reforms leave Nigerians on edge 1 year after. Particularly, we have an animation here, a cartoon that says, and I read, calm down, that Tinubu is telling a figurative, personified Nigeria that calm down. I am still drawing a sample to check how much pains we can get from you. That's actually very humorous. And still on the same newspaper, we have it. Ministers give Tinubu pass mark amid rising inflation, subsidies, and insecurity. On the bottom strip of the same newspaper, concerns over inactive $252 million Intel facility, missing info on NCC dashboard. And still we have it. EFCC dogs former aviation minister Sirika brother in fresh 10 counts charge. I love to ask, it's in a couple of days from now. It will be 29th of May, the day our president made a very catch statement. Subsidy is gone, which avalanched the whole issue that we have today. It's almost 1 year. The ministers are giving him a pass mark. But do you think Nigerians are equally giving him a pass mark?
No, I don't think Nigerians are giving a pass mark. Okay. And it cannot be that Nigerians could give a pass mark with a relatively empty stomach. Not just empty stomach, with rates that are going above the roof. I will also want to preface this by saying that we were in a quagmire. We are still in a quagmire. And the way and manner that we needed to take ourselves out of that quagmire is what is called to question. Okay, so clearly, I spent the better part of my life in oil and gas. And so the issue of subsidy or no subsidy has always been thing that I know has dogged our path. And we have not made our refineries to work. We have stolen all that blind. So we had a patient that is completely asphyxiated. So you do either of two things, try and retrieve, and it's going to be very tough. It's going to be very hard. Bola Tinubu himself made the choice that they were tough choices that has to be taken, but the implementation, unfortunately, has not worked to support that. Again, my personal opinion, whether Bola Tinubu on May 29 said subsidy is gone or he waited till June ending, for me, the jury is out. Even if he extended it to July, that there were going to be very hard decisions that needed to be taken, for which we did not lay our bets well, and we cannot be thinking of sleeping on it.
Now, talking about hard decisions and all, an economist, said that, in fact, he analyzed that if Bola Ahmed Tinubu and his family were to be living like every other Nigerian, that he and his family will be the first to carry placards to say, "Woe unto the government that has caused us shame." Unfortunately, he's telling us to bear as much as we can. Now, how do we draw the line from understanding this is the pain and maybe having an agenda? Do you think Bola Ahmed Tinubu has an agenda?
I think when you talk about an agenda, I think globally speaking, we must recognize the fact that Nigeria needed fixing. Nigeria was broken. Now, how you come about fixing is now the issue, the strategy, the stratagem, the kind of character, the kind of example you bring to bear. I think the agenda of Emilokun, fair enough, forced to a standstill to become his own man, clearly. And so came out with subsidy gone, alignment of exchange rates going down the line. We are not entirely sure. Truth is being told to us whether we are still not paying subsidy or still paying some subsidy. And looking at our tax generally and say, look, multiplicity of taxes should be realigned so that people don't suffer double taxation. That was all in the works. And then again, got the cyber security, cyber levy thing on top of the electricity tariff. I think basically the Bola Tinubu's administration, the midfield in the thing was not feeding well, communicating well in such a way and manner that if certain things do happen, well, you should be seen to have thought it through. I mean, the president signing a memo that was brought to him, hard copy, talking about the committee that are supposed to be sitting down to be looking at how to resolve issues, and then signing billions, millions, doesn't look to me as an administration that is well cut out.
So what you're saying, what you're saying invariably is we have a president who has no empathy.
To say he has no empathy, well, the buck stops on his table. But to the extent that he says he hears your pains and he reverses some of the things, I think it's a form of empathy. That this should continue on a regular basis is not acceptable. There's no doubt about that. And I think it's a matter of trying to put square pegs in square holes. Yeah. That has not happened, and it's just rushed into that. I also think that the personal example that follows him, looking at the chamber, then looking at his son. What are you doing in here? Very embarrassing. And situations where we are going to go for COP28. Virtually everybody.
And the community is going with him.
Everybody is going. Chief of staff is going with him, and all that. is coming back from abroad, and the person that is going to go and greet him is chief of staff. Does he really understand what his role will be? The secretary to the government. I think in putting 1 year together, I think it's been, let's satisfy the political IOUs, personal political IOUs. I want to believe that that's going to change. I also want to believe that as a Democrat and somebody who believes in federalism, Mr. Bola Ahmed Tinubu now at the cockpit now knows that Nigeria is not working, and we need to recalibrate. We need to restructure Nigeria. We need to begin honest discussions. I am expecting, that's my prediction, I'm expecting men and women of courage and of character in this our country, not necessarily politicians, are going to begin to come out more to say Nigeria has to be restructured so that we can get the leadership question right.
Very true. Nigeria has to restructure so we can get our leadership right. Now let's move on to the Punch newspaper. And the big story here says Lagos Calabar Highway 750 houses for demolition as property owners allege poor compensation. The writer here says Tinubu to flag off project Sunday, ministry to demolish buildings based on Gazette. And on the bottom strip of the same newspaper, we have 19.4 billion naira fraud. Sirika brother gets 200 million naira bail. IOCs to invest 20 billion naira in Nigeria. That's coming from the federal government. 15 firms may produce military weapons locally, and that's also coming from our minister. Let's talk about the issue of the Lagos Calabar Highway that has made significant the noise about town, particularly 750 houses that would be going for a demolition. And I would love us to maybe cast our searchlight on the Landmark Event Center. Now, for so many who know the Landmark Event Center, it's one of those places that has given an awesome face to Lagos tourism and Nigeria, particularly, and it's amongst the 750 properties that will be going down. Now, my question is, in the course of national interest, be that as it may, that this is one land scale project that is equal to the third mainland bridge that was built from 1980 to 1990. But don't you think in the course of this, we should maybe put some bit of human face as we go for a national interest? We do not destroy what we already have in the course.
Good question. Except that I will say that ignorance of law cannot be an excuse. And again, we must understand what the law says about federal land and inland. So Landmark and others knew that quite a number of things that has been appropriated, even though, like you said, we are paying taxes to government officials that are corrupt. So corruption does not make any freedom. And secondly, I also wanted to also align that the Landmark facility is not going down. Some portion of it that is towards the seashore, illegally acquired.
According to the owner, in 2007, he said he paid $20 million at the time. He got all the approval that he needed from the Lagos state government. How is it looking like illegally acquired?
I can pay a lot of money to armed robbers.
So you mean the government of the day in 2007 are armed robbers?
I can pay a lot of money to armed robbers, does not make it right. I can pay a lot of money because I know that you are also going to be a partner in crime. Still does not make it right. I do not want to give a cover to governments in that angle. In fact, holistically, I think the machinery of administration of lands, how you allocate lands, needs a total overhaul, not just in Lagos, elsewhere. But I also think that the Lagos-Calabar highway project, again, maybe more importantly now, is suffering from maybe a bit of a slowdown because the environmental impact assessment that needed to have been done, that they said has been done, we are beginning to hear hues and cries that it's going to destroy cables. And so the minister is already saying that maybe we have to do a bit of a diversion. Now, originally, for the landmark, some element of diversion came into being so that it will not be destroyed totally. Yeah. When we put all this in, Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall. Humpty Dumpty, had a great fall. And when that fall is going to happen, it's going to scatter the whole thing. Yeah. Two wrongs don't make a right. I agree. Yeah. But at the same time, I also think due process, making sure that that project went through the usual competitive bidding. And if there was no need for bidding, we needed to have more communication in that direction.
Yes, sir. So before we leave, I think particularly I would love to ask this question, and that's coming from our last daily, the Daily Independent. And I'm just taking the headline. A federal government list oil sector achievements target 20 billion naira investment this year. You're coming from the oil and gas industry. Does this really look proactive?
I don't know if we have an oil and gas minister. It's been broken into. And I
think they should be the president.
And some of them are overlapping. Yeah. I don't think the president as the oil minister augurs well. I don't think, and I know that he's an oil man, and if he sits in front of me and I sit in front of him and we exchange, your knowledge about how to run that business must naturally be limited. He knows that. And it's the reason why he has to try and get some persons. Now, the kind of investment that you are talking about at a time when Total Energies is moving away with their 6 billion, at a time when, maybe before him, virtually ExxonMobil says they're on their way out. Quite a number of other oil and gas have gone bananas. All flaring is still on, and the dollarization that happens in that space, we still not have been able to do a lot of accounting. Now to talk about security, Tantina is looking at the oil pipes. We don't see light at the end of the tunnel. It's still ongoing. We've still not been able to ramp up our production capacity. It's gone up a little bit, but at least we are still not there. The long and short of it is that sector needs not just a total overhaul, but a total recalibration for us to be able to get the best yield from that industry. For now, we are not.
Very true, very true. The industry needs total recalibration, just like our guest did say. Well, this is just the time we have for our newspaper reviews this morning. I would love to say thank you for being part of our show. It was really indeed. I would love to have you more.
It's always a pleasure. Thank you very much.
All right. So when we return, Lamido Sanusi reclaims Shun as Emir of Kano. That in a beat. Please don't go anywhere.